Hi, let's talk a little bit more about writing. We live in time and space. Whatever you or I accomplish in our lives will happen in real time and in real spaces. I hear people give advice all the time about how to write. People often give advice about when to write, but I almost never hear anyone talk about where to write. And yet I think in practical terms, that is a challenge for many writers. Where can you in your life go to achieve the focus that you need to create something worth reading? Virginia Woolf famously talked about having a room of one's own, a place where a person could, in a sense, be free of their spouse, of their families, and be able to develop their individuality. Now, many people have a room that they can devote to writing. If you've got that, that's terrific, but there's still some things you need to think about. But many people don't have that room. Where do they find a space that they can go to on a regular basis and develop a productive routine of creation? The issue is, how do you create a space in which there are no other distractions? When I'm at home, if I walk from one room to another, I see 5 or 6 things I need to do urgently that have nothing to do with writing. It takes an enormous mental effort simply to push my way through my life physically to find any place that I can escape from it. I've had to, in my life, come up with certain solutions to escape the burden of everyday life. For years, I had a little table in the basement. I did nothing at this table except write. There was no phone, there were no books, there were no letters. If I sat down there, I really had the choice only to write or feel bad that I wasn't writing. It allowed me, in a sense, to focus on the task at hand. I found that same kind of freedom in cafeterias, in cafes, and most importantly, in public libraries. I could go after work to a public library, sit at one of the tables, and basically be free of my life physically, mentally, and focus. I wrote almost every poem in my first book in a public library. Now, some people can do this in a Starbucks. Some people, can do it in a park. But one of the dangers right now is that you can find the space, but you won't find the freedom. I look at the people writing in Starbucks, and I see them Facebooking, I see them checking websites, I see them answering emails. You have to not only create a space, but you have to protect it from every other thing in your life. Now, those are some of the things that work for me. Other writers have found other solutions. Vladimir Nabokov had an apartment that was so tiny that he made a little desk that he could use so he could write standing up in their tiny bathroom. Louis Auchincloss, had a full-time law job, so he began to write on the subways. He didn't bring a book, he didn't bring a newspaper, he simply worked, and he had an hour of time that would have otherwise escaped him. That for him, the subway meant writing. John Updike has the most luxurious solution that I know of. He had a giant attic, and he had 4 desks. One he wrote novels on, one he wrote his poems, one he wrote his reviews, and the 4th one he wrote his correspondence. When he came to a dead stop in one desk, he would walk to another desk and begin a different task. The physical spaces you create to work in will guide your work if you can protect them from the other things in your life. You're going to need to find the way that works best for you. But let me give you 3 simple pieces of advice. 1, find a space in which you can work. You don't have to own it. It can be a cafe, it can be a library, it can be a picnic table in a public park. Secondly, don't do anything there except write. Make yourself know that once you go into that zone, you're changing your mode. And then thirdly, disconnect yourself from the rest of the world. Don't have your phone there. Don't have your computer there connected to the internet. Believe it or not, a couple of hours later, the world will still be there. But you won't have that time again. Everything that happens in our life happens in a real space. So create a space for your writing to happen.